Make sure this is live. Yep, here we go. Cool. All right, so in this training, we're going to be talking about the nutrition basics. This is a guide for total beginners, or if you're just looking to learn more about macros, how they work in our body and everything like that. So to get started, here's what we're going over. So we're going to be doing a overview of your metabolism, what calories are, what macros are, so carbs, dietary fat, protein, micronutrients as well, how to hit your macros, tips for hitting the macros, and then how to actually determine your own macros, which I'm going to give you some bonus content. So you'll be able to do this without having to do like any math at all. You'll thank me later. So to start off with, I found this awesome quote from Hippocrates. I think that's how you say it, right? So if we could give every individual the right amount of nourishment and exercise, not too little and not too much, we would have the safest way to health. And we're actually going to be talking about the right amount of nourishment. So not too little, not too much. And that's how we're going to, make sure that our body's getting to where we want it to be and, controlling that. So with metabolism, weight comes down to one equation. And this is the equation for your metabolism. So energy in minus energy out equals changes in body stores. So what that means is when you take in more energy in the form of calories, I'm sure you've heard of calories. When you take in more calories than you burn, that means you're gaining weight. You're going to gain weight, right? When you take in less energy than you burn, you lose weight. So if you're not eating enough and you're moving around a lot, you're going to be losing weight. When you eat or when you take in the same energy as you burn, then you're maintaining. So if your weight isn't changing and you're not tracking calories or anything, you're probably eating the same amount of calories that you're burning, right? So energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can't be created and it can't be destroyed, right? So it's only transferred from one state to another. That means that we can't create energy from nothing. That means you don't just gain fat from nothing, right? We convert it from food. So any excess energy that we don't take in, it doesn't just magically vanish. Your body either increases energy out, which means it turns up the metabolism to burn that energy. So you're using it for like lifting or moving around or like talking with your hands, or it stores the excess energy as body fat. So when you see your body fat going up, that means that your body's storing that energy because you're not actually using it. So to explain energy balance a little bit more, you have on one side of this scale, your energy in. So that's how much you're eating. And this is talking about the factors that actually influence that. And then on the other side, the factors that influence energy out. So this is where you're burning calories. So to start off with, it's so much more complex than just energy in and energy out. And this is where you kind of see that. So the factors that influence what you're eating might be your appetite. So this is influenced by hormones that regulate your appetite and satiety, which is just how much you're full and how much you're satisfied, right? And appetite changes. You might notice when you're on your period, your appetite goes up, and that's because of our hormones, right? Food consumed. So this is influenced by availability, palatability, energy density, sleep quality, education, your socioeconomic status, and your culture. So the types of foods that you're eating depend on all these different factors, right? It's so much more complex. So calories absorbed. So you might be eating calories, but the calories that are actually absorbed and used are influenced by the macronutrient intake that you're eating, the food prep. So there's certain foods that once you cook them and then refrigerate them, the carbs actually go down because of a resistant starch. That's a whole other topic. Age, personal microbiome, your health status, your energy status, all those factors. And then psychological factors as well. So influenced by stress levels, mindset, perceived control, self-esteem, and again, sleep quality. So all of these different things affect how much calories you're actually intaking. And then for energy out, your energy burned at rest is influenced by your body size, your hormonal status, dieting history, genetic factors, your health status, again, sleep quality, and your age. So the amount of calories that you're burning at rest If you're a bigger individual, you burn a lot more calories at rest. If you have more muscle, you burn more calories at rest than somebody that has less muscle. Children burn less calories, and so on. So energy burned through exercise. This is also influenced by exercise ability, how hard you're going in your workouts, so your intensity, how often you work out, the type, all those different things as well. Energy burned by non-exercise activity. So this is called NEAT. So your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And there's so many different things that affect that as well, like your stress levels, your energy status, and then energy burned by metabolizing food. So this is actually our body burns more calories when we eat protein as opposed to carbs and so on. There's so much that goes into this. But a simple way to figure this out and figure out how to increase our energy out and decrease our energy in so that we're losing weight, because that's most people's goals. Most people come to me wanting to lose fat. So we have to tip that scale so that they're burning more energy and not eating as much energy, so that we start using those fat stores as energy and lose that fat and get to our dream body, right? So what is a calorie? And this is what we're talking about when we say energy. We usually use energy and calories interchangeably, but calories are what you're going to see on your nutrition facts, and you're going to hear that related to food more often. So a calorie is a unit of measurement. When you hear something contains 100 calories, it's just a way of describing how much energy your body could get from eating or drinking it. So we burn those calories for energy, or we might store them as body fat, right? So each macro contains calories. So whenever we track macros, we're automatically tracking calories. So you don't need to worry about one or the other. Just track your macros and you're automatically tracking calories, right? And then here's where it's located on nutrition facts, if you didn't already know that. So macronutrients, there's technically 4 of them, but these 3 are the ones that we focus on because they give us the most energy, and they're the ones that are good for us pretty much. So carbohydrates are also called carbs. Then you have your protein, and then you have your dietary fat or total fat on nutrition labels. So with carbs, for each gram of carb, you have 4 calories. So if you eat a gram of carbohydrate, you're essentially eating 4 calories worth of energy, right? So that means if you have 25 carbs, you essentially are eating 100 calories, right? Same thing with protein. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. So if you have 10 grams of protein, you essentially have 40 calories, right? It's just quick math, multiply by 4 kind of thing. But you'll find here soon that you won't have to do any math, and it makes it so easy. So again, with fat, fat has a lot more calories per gram. So 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. So just 5 grams of fats equals 45 calories. That's why things like oils, when you're adding oils to food, it ups the calories so much. And then with alcohol, technically it is the 4th macronutrient, but our nutrition plans don't focus on it because it doesn't offer much in terms of health benefits. And it actually contains 7 calories per gram. So if you've ever heard or had somebody tell you that absolute vodka is 0 calories, it's actually not. It has a lot of calories in it. There's no 0-calorie alcoholic beverage, unfortunately. That'd be great. All right, so more about our macros, right? So with most foods and beverages, they're made up of a combination of the 3 macronutrients, right? Most foods have one dominant macronutrient that provides the majority of the calories. So I gave some examples here. Brown rice is mostly carbohydrate, but it has a little bit of protein and fat, right? So you see that 85% of it is carbs, but it also contains 8% of protein and 7% of fat, right? Cashews are mostly fat, but they also contain a little bit of protein and a little bit of carb. Just like peanuts, peanuts are not a good source of protein. They're a better source of fat because of this reason here. So nuts and seeds, they have mostly fat. Lean chicken breast is mostly protein, but it also contains some fat, and it doesn't contain any carbohydrates. So you can see this example, it's mostly protein and then some fat, right? So with our carbs, all the time, people tell me they're slashing their carbs. Carbs are your friend and your food. So carbohydrates break down into sugars in our body, and it gives us energy for immediate use. That's awesome. You can eat an apple, or if you've heard of whenever a diabetic has low blood sugar, they drink an orange juice real quick to get their blood sugar up. It's quick energy. It's awesome. We need carbs to fuel our lifting sessions and just to feel good in general. Low carbs can cause low blood sugar. You might feel dizzy. I've literally seen people faint from not eating enough, especially carbs. Feeling chronically tired. You might have difficulty concentrating when you're low carb and higher hunger. Carbs also contain fiber. Most carbs, some carbs that are high in fiber, it's a type of carbohydrate that improves your digestion. So when you're low carb, it can actually cause bloating because of not having enough fiber, which, is going to blow some people's minds, right? So foods that contain mostly carbs are going to be things like your fruits, your vegetables, plain pasta, plain breads, whole wheats, cereals, your potatoes, your rice, oatmeal, things like that. But just check your food labels. And if it has most of its calories coming from carbs, then it's a good source of carbohydrate. Something that is a really big misconception with carbs is people think that sweets and desserts are carbs. So they cut them out because they're cutting out carbs. But the reason that people go lower sweets and go less desserts, right? It's because they're high calorie, because they include a lot of carbs and a lot of fats. It's actually a combination. So when you think of sweets and desserts, it's not just carbs, it's carbs and fats together, and sodium all together into one. And it tastes really awesome, but it has a high amount of calories overall, right? So most people do really well with having 40 to 60% of their calories coming from carbohydrates. And this will make more sense as we go with this presentation. So next, we'll talk about our proteins, right? So high protein diets help you feel full and they improve your metabolism. So if you're low protein, which low protein, a lot of my clients, when they come to me, are usually eating under 100. So if you're under 100, you're low protein for most people. So you got to get that up, right? Because proteins break down into amino acids, which our body uses to build muscle. So this improves our muscle composition, and it's also involved in creating mood regulating neurotransmitters, which obviously you want a better mood, right? So eating more protein is going to help a lot with that. So lack of protein actually leads to anemia. So if you're feeling super tired all the time, you're bruising easily, get that protein up and you're going to notice changes pretty quickly. Protein also gets used in the body, kind of like a carbohydrate whenever we're eating super low carb or doing keto. This is where people kind of fail with doing keto diets, is because they don't track their protein, or they actually eat too high of protein for a keto diet. And they're out of ketosis because the protein gets turned into a blood sugar in their body, and it puts them out of ketosis. So they're not even doing it right. So show this to your keto friends and, just tell them to do higher carb and higher protein. They're going to feel so much better. So high protein foods almost always contain some sort of dietary fat associated with them. You won't really ever find a protein source that doesn't have fat with it. So it's pretty common. All of these sources I'll mention have dietary fat too. So great sources of protein include animal meats, seafood, fish, protein powder, eggs, especially egg whites. Egg whites are probably one of the only things that isn't going to have fat associated with it, because you took the yolk out, and that's the fat part that comes with it. Any protein fortified foods like protein bars, Greek yogurt, things like that. You also have your vegan sources. So if you're somebody that's vegan, vegetarian, these sources usually contain a higher carb content or a higher fat content as well, like tofu, seitan, soy, and dairy products that are regular fat. Those usually have higher protein, but they also come with those fats and carbs associated with them. With protein, you want to aim for 15 to 35% of your calories coming from protein. And like I said, usually higher is going to be better. The best recommendation I have is 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. So go with your lean body mass, and then eat 1 gram of protein per gram. If you're leaner, then you're going to need more protein. And if you're trying to build, you'll also need more protein. Right, next is our fats. So another good one that people try to cut out. You never want to cut out any of these macronutrients. They're called macronutrients for a reason. We need them in large amounts, right? So fat is essential. That just means if you don't consume enough, you will disrupt your hormones and you're not going to feel so hot, right? We need to eat fat for all these different things that I'm going to talk about. So fats break down into fatty acids, which help form certain structures of our body, like our brain, nervous system, and cell walls. So it's pretty damn important, right? So without enough fat in your diet, it can lead to brain fog, reproductive issues, dry skin, a weaker immune system, hair loss, and vitamin deficiencies. So the reason that that happens is because certain vitamins are only fat soluble, which means they dissolve in fat. So if you're not eating fat in your diet, you're not absorbing these nutrients that you need. So some great sources of fats include egg yolks, butters, nuts and seeds, oils, olives, avocados, fatty animal meats, and fish like ribeye, salmon, coconut, things like that, right? So 20 to 40% of your calories you want to come from your dietary fat. And what I've found is that with most of my clients, bringing them up to a minimum of 30%, they feel the best. And this will obviously depend on what your goals are and what your preferences are as well. And don't forget your micronutrients. So something that I find with macro tracking, especially, is that people start tracking and they start trying to fit everything in, right? They're trying to fit like pizza every single night and all kinds of stuff in there. And then they kind of forget about the micronutrients. These are just nutrients that don't have calories associated with them, and they're required in smaller amounts in our body. While counting macros allows you to have flexibility, you just don't want to make the mistake of trying to fit everything in without thinking of food quality as well. Super important. So how to track macros. Math sucks. You want an app to do it for you, right? So the one that I recommend is MyFitnessPal. I've had clients use other things like Fitbit has a tracking app. There's so many different ways you can do this. MyFitnessPal has been around for a long time and has a really big database with it and is very user friendly. Once you get the hang of it, it's easy. And it has a barcode scanner. You can scan your food just by scanning the barcode. So it's super easy. And you have a quick reference guide for how much of each macronutrient a serving of food contains. So you're going to learn what foods have what. And the app actually adds up the macros for you. And it lets you know how many you have left for the day. So it's a lot better than just trying to keep it in your head or write it down, right? So I have some tips for you for tracking your macros. One of the biggest ones is planning ahead. The biggest mistake I see people do is trying to track as they go, and they almost never hit their macros, or they're way above calories, way under, not hitting fiber. If you're planning ahead, you're planning to be successful, right? So, many people find that it helps to plan out meals the night before or the morning of. It helps to strategize ahead of time, builds meals that meet those macro goals. So you're obviously going to hit them. Instead of choosing food reactively when you're hungry, right? So you're like super hungry and then somebody orders a pizza and you're like, man, like 5 pieces of that sounds really good right now because I'm starving and I didn't plan ahead. Make sure you're using a food scale. Measuring by weight always is more accurate than measuring by volume. So if you're using like measuring cups and stuff, there's so much error that you could be having that you could be out of a calorie deficit. So you want to try and use a food scale. I actually have videos on how to do this on my YouTube, so you can check those out, or I can send you them. If you just send me a message, I can send it to you. Just make sure that you're measuring, if you're measuring the food raw, log it raw. So if I type in like raw chicken, make sure I measure it raw and then cook it. The easiest thing to do is I measure everything cooked already. I'll type in grilled chicken and then I measure my grilled chicken because I cooked it in bulk kind of thing. Save meals. Go-to meals are the easiest way to track. If you tend to repeat meals every once in a while, having them entered and calculated makes tracking more efficient. So you don't have to type everything in every single time. You can just copy and paste, super easy. If you're eating out, plan on looking at the menu ahead of time, logging that meal ahead of time. You can check out the menu before you get to the restaurant and kind of get an idea of what you're going to do. And then you can track your macros for the rest of the day that way. I actually have a whole meal planning training that I did on here last week that you can check out to help you to hit your macros. So what should I eat to hit my macros, right? So hitting your macros primarily through a variety of minimally processed foods that are naturally rich in micronutrients is going to help you to feel your best, make sure you're not getting any deficiencies with any vitamins. You're kind of hitting everything, and you're just going to feel the best when you do it this way. Obviously, the point is for flexibility and to eat what you want. But whenever you have your food mostly made up of what's on this list here, you're just going to feel a lot better, like along the outsides here. If you're filling up most of your food with like pizza, fried chicken, mostly desserts and things, you're just going to find that you don't feel the best, and it gets a lot harder to hit your macros. So this macro cheat sheet is a great place to start if you want to like screenshot this, or you can always come back to this because I'll be posting this live later so that you can get back to it, right? But it's like a cheat sheet. So if I have protein left, I can come here and here's some ideas for protein, right? Makes it super easy. So the best part, right? So how to determine your own macros. So this is something that I do for clients. And what I do as a coach is there's a calculation that you can do. It's a lot of math and it's a pain in the butt, right? And the thing with macro calculators, I'm actually going to give you one to use. The problem with this is they don't take into account what you're eating now. As a coach, I take that into account. I find your baseline and make sure that everything checks out, and then we go off of the calculations as well. But if you're looking to do this just for yourself or for a friend of yours, then this macro calculator, I'm going to post in the comments when we're done. You can just click it and go through and use it. This is the one that I highly recommend. You're going to be able to put in your everything about yourself, your goals. It's going to kind of adjust for your metabolism, adjusting to things, and your preferences. So you can start out using this. Once you have your macros, make sure you track for 2 weeks at least. Don't track for a week and try to change things. Don't track for 2 days and expect results. It takes 2 weeks to determine whether any changes you notice are due to your plan working or not working, or if it's just like body fluctuations. So make sure you're tracking your progress and make sure you're being honest with yourself. One of the biggest fails I see is people not tracking honestly and not measuring their food correctly, leaving things out. They're not tracking like bites, licks, drinks. And when you do that, you're leaving a lot of calories on the table that are untracked, and you just got to be honest with yourself. All right. Lastly, remember that, we eat food, not nutrients. It's not just about macros here. So food is so much more than just grams of protein, carbs, and fats. And meals aren't just a chance to hit your macro goals, right? So meals are also an opportunity to experience pleasure, spend time caring for your body, and share with people you love, right? We have dinners with our family. We go out to eat with our families. We enjoy food. We don't just eat it. I don't just eat food to hit my protein goal, right? I actually enjoy what I eat because food is something, your relationship with food is the longest relationship you will ever have. You want to make sure that it's good. You want to make sure you're actually enjoying your food, flavor it however you need to. And then just remember, it's a chance to connect with yourself and with others. Every food choice is an opportunity to direct, shape, and remake your health. So it's so much more than just macros. And just remember that tracking is a tool. It's not forever. The point of tracking is so that you learn what nutrients are in certain foods, so that you learn portion control, so that you learn what foods you prefer, and how to be flexible with things so that you don't have to do a meal plan that doesn't teach you anything, right? So in the long run, the point of tracking is so that you can do this without having to use MyFitnessPal or without having to think about it much, because you'll be like, oh, this is protein. I can make a balanced meal with protein, fats, and carbs, right? And feel good and maintain your results, right? So if you guys have any questions, just comment them below, send me a message. If you learned anything on here, post it to your stories on Instagram. It helps me out a ton. If you share what you learned and then tag me in your stories, tag Ariel in Fitness, and then check out the trainings that will be coming more often every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Really appreciate you guys coming on here, and I will post the recap in the live along with commenting the free macro calculator to try. Thank you guys.